Alright guys, welcome back. This is video 3 of 3 for painting aspen trees. It's been a week since my last session and I decided I think this is kind of empty and boring over here and I want to add a mama black bear and a couple cubs. So we're going to do that, but I'm not going to include that in this video. So we're still going to make this whole aspen tree landscape tutorial a 3-part video, but there's going to be a bonus round coming up next, which is just going to be called like a black bear and cubs tutorial. And if you want, you can also add them to your painting if you're recreating this painting for fun. For our colors list today, we have the same colors that we were using the last 2 painting sessions. I'm going to start with these aspen trees, getting the bark on there, and then once I feel pretty good with that, I'm going to start bouncing around some more. We're going to be using a liner brush for a lot of this painting tutorial. I'm going to use a different smaller brush. I'm going to use my number 2 flat tip brush, and I'm going to take some white with just a little bit of my light blue cobalt color and an itty bit of ochre to get like that kind of aspen greenish type of color. And I want it to be a little lighter in value than what we have there, so I got to make sure that's lighter. And I'm just going to start on the left side of this tree and work my way down the edge with this lighter color. And this is just going to help me to keep getting that round look. Just kind of take your brush and push a little harder with the brush onto the canvas to blend in that line you just put in. We're doing up and down marks because it's going to help give the textured look of the bark. But yeah, that looks pretty nice. And I also see I want to add a little more cobalt and magenta. That was Alizarin crimson. That'll also work. Right here. Maybe a little more, but we'll use a little more magenta. Just a little right in here. Along this kind of boundary. And I'm doing this before I do the bark lines because the bark lines kind of go over all of this. So you want to start with the things that are farthest in the back and then work your way up. Doesn't have to blend perfectly. In fact, you can go ahead and just, if you take a little bit of paint off your brush, you can just make some marks like this, and that'll help even more with getting that textured look. If you get too much paint on there like that, then just kind of brush it around, let it blend in. And I'm going to brighten up highlights on a couple of these too while I'm at it. We'll mix some white with some Naples yellow and Naples reddish. Thin that down a little and just brighten this up a little in a couple spots along the edge. A little bit more Naples reddish. And a little magenta. The details now. I could play with these colors all day. There's so many tiny little variations in the colors in these trees. It's really beautiful. Alright, so we're going back to that ivory black with white and a little bit of cobalt and a little bit of umber. And we want this value to be a little darker than the left side of the trees. I'm just thinning that paint down so I can get a nice smooth line. And you're going to just, don't do a perfectly straight line, but you could do a straight line in a couple spots because these trees are very interesting the way the bark goes. It doesn't all follow. It's not like a coconut tree, like a palm tree where it's all like symmetrical all the way up. Every ring is the same. This one is like totally different. Some of the rings are facing this way, like they're not all symmetrical and oriented the same way. So you start with just these thin little lines. Alright, and then once you get that in there, then you could take some black with some umber, a little ultramarine, maybe a little dioxazine purple. It's a pretty dark color. And here's where we can start adding these other features in the bark where maybe there used to be a limb or there was like a injured part of the bark. And you just make these circles. It's not going to look perfectly realistic right away. We're going to have to do a little bit of layering, highlights, and details and stuff like that, but make sure they're not all, perfectly in the same spot too. Or like perfectly symmetrical. Put some more little rings around this one. It's looking pretty good already, and we still got a lot more to go to make it really realistic. So maybe I'll just get like a lot done on this one, and then I'll start working on the other one so you can get an idea of the process. So next, let's do our little highlights. So we're going to go with some phthalo blue, white. Let's do a little bit of that rose blush color, the fleshy pink color. Take a little more white. Yeah, it's a little bit of ochre too. I just feel like it needs a little bit more of a green. And we'll mix a little cobalt in there too, just to get like close to the color we had over there. Alright, and then, okay, a little more white because we want this to be like a highlight. And everywhere you put one of those black lines, put this little white line over it. You can even put a few more little white lines in there in between. And if it's not standing out over that background, then you need to add more white. I think mine might be a little too green. I might cool it down a little, so I add a little ultramarine blue. And you want to go over those black shadowy spots. Again, just add a few more in between there too. And then we can take a little bit of this purple color and some crimson and some Naples reddish. Get like a nice warm purple. And that is what color we can put over some of these little lines in the highlighted section, just to carry that over. Carry the lines over, but turn the colors warm where the tree is warm. And we also got a bunch of like little brownish, grayish spots like all throughout. So you can just take your little brush and like start to kind of scribble, very lightly pressing so that it's creating some of these little dots and drags of lines in here. I'm not doing too much. Don't want to overdo it. It's probably one of the harder things with these aspen trees is not overdoing it with the details. So there's a lot of nice little details, but we don't need all of them in the painting. Can mix them in with a lighter gray. They don't all have to be super dark. A few more little dots and scribbles in here. We can take some cobalt with the white, maybe a little ultramarine, some umber, and you can just like dab inside a few of these little darker points. I can add some umber with a little purple dots in here. Alright, looks pretty good. Maybe touch up like the border of the tree just a little. I can touch up this background later. Put those in a little bit there. Alright, while I'm looking at this area, I'm going to lighten up values there a little. So I'm going to take some more Naples with white, sap green, and phthalo blue. It's purple, my light violet color. And we're just gonna start to touch up here a little bit more again. Here. And then there's like a sap green, phthalo blue, flesh tint, and white color. what this one is. Okay, and then a little bit more of that with some white, and Naples reddish is up here. It's kind of creeping through in the back. Looks good. I'm gonna take some lemon with some sap green and some Naples reddish, and just add some little highlights to some of these leaves in here. And add a little more white. You can do a couple. I'll just take sap green with some phthalo and cadmium yellow and white. Just use that to cover up the top of this tree. Take some cadmium yellow light and white. That's kind of what we got over here. And we want a little bit of this color, but like more cool. So we're going to take some more white, lemon, and do a little bit of phthalo there. Yeah, that's pretty good. And that's what I want for this section. A little bit of light coming in there. Not everywhere. A couple spots. Just gonna take some white with a little bit of cobalt. Kind of like my sky color again. We have some really bright highlights in here. And we'll take a little more phthalo, purple, Naples, add a few more shadows in here. These nice pretty colors. And I'll add some white to that just to get another round of highlights down here. A little more phthalo and sap green. Maybe a little purple. Alright, I'm ready to work on the tree some more, and then we'll come back to the background. Alright, so I'm taking some ivory black, ultramarine blue, white, umber, Just going with all these little bark lines first. Okay, then we'll make our little barky black spots. Mostly focusing on the black here. We can use a little bit of that purple and cobalt color. Just mix a little bit of umber in there. Got some branches kind of coming in and out of this area up here. It's kind of hard to tell where they're coming from. They look pretty good from here. Next, I gotta go, just like I did on this one, take the highlight for over here with white, little ochre. A little more white if it's not showing up. I think the most important thing for painting aspen trees is to not give up, because at the beginning they look kind of weird, but then once you add all these black lines, these little highlights, they look pretty cool and realistic, and it's pretty easy to do. Just gotta follow the steps. Could take white with your Naples. Push a nice bright highlight on some of these in there. Could do the same thing for some of the ones over here. Just to finish up these highlight marks. Alright, let's see, let's take some purple. I'm just going to darken up shadow on this one right here in the middle so that it can stand out more from this guy. Alright, we've got some cadmium yellow medium down here with a little bit of crimson. Some light hitting these trees. It's kind of coming in little clusters. Just going to take more ochre, mix it in with this other color. Start to add some really nice warm, whoops, leaves over here. Come back to my sap green and cadmium yellow medium. And phthalo blue. Them. Just make sure you get the shape of the leaf right if you're going to get a couple of them that like to be the accurate shape and the rest of them can be blobs, just so someone can like read this as an aspen. If they're looking at it, they know what it is. A little bit more ultramarine and phthalo for up here. Getting a little texture. Do some dark verdigris in here. Alright, we're going to go back to the liner brush. Take some black with some cobalt and ultramarine. And some ochre and some flesh tint. And we're just starting to add more branches. Can add a little bit of umber in there too. You know, we've got a branch in here. Okay, and then we've got some that have highlights, some little branches. So I'm going to take some of my burnt sienna. There's a little bit of blue that got in there, so just going to calm it down a bit with white. And we'll use this color on parts of some of these branches. Adding all these little branches really helps to add like a realistic touch. It just gives like a little more depth and makes the leaves look less flat because they're going in different directions. It helps to create that illusion. Okay. I'm going to take a little bit more sap green and lemon and cadmium medium and a lot of white. Brighten this area back up again with some more texture and highlights. Kind of cover up some of these branches. Up here we gotta do some more highlights. And take some white. It's like a cooler blue-green color up here. Add a little bit of cadmium yellow light, more white. Just see what we can do to brighten up a few of these. And we need some highlights in here. So I'm going to take my white, blend it in with that. A few more shadows, taking the sap green. Do a couple more minor touch-ups up here. Alright guys, I'm going to call that a finished painting for the purpose of painting aspen trees in this nice little landscape scene inspired by one of my photos I took in Montana. I'm going to do a couple more minor touch-ups to this, and then if you want to come back for a bonus round part 4, we're going to add a mama black bear and a couple cubs right here because it's kind of empty right there. So I think that would look nice there. But other than that, you made it to the finished painting, yay! Here is a quick time lapse of the full painting process from start to finish. If you wanted to watch it back very quickly to see everything that we did. I hope you guys enjoyed this painting tutorial and it helped you to paint aspen trees. You definitely do not have to go to this level of detail if you don't want to. That's just my preference with my painting style. Hope you enjoyed this painting tutorial. Have a great day and happy painting! Bye bye!